welcome to Miss Vicky's bookcase for the year of 2021. It's almost hard to believe that we're actually in this timeline. So many people want to get rid of 2020 because 2021 is going to be so much better. Not quite sure about that, but we shall see. It's only early days. So moving on from the coronavirus, that virus that shall not be named, and moving straight into some bullet journaling. Now, I know I'm a couple of days late, well actually more than a couple of days late with the spreads for this month, but I was enjoying time off and then all of a sudden it was January. So I'm kind of excited the fact that I kind of had enough time that I could relax and just refresh myself ready for this new year, and I'm feeling really ready to go with my bullet journal for the year. Just to note one thing, because this is a reading bullet journal rather than just a journal, if that makes sense, I have not started a brand new journal. I'm still carrying on for the journal I started last year, mostly because it's still got loads of pages and I feel like I'm not going to fill it up enough to really necessitate having a new journal. So there is that. Anyway, moving on, because you'll want to know what on earth I'm doing. Now, there is an overarching theme to this whole year, and that is the medieval decorations, that kind of thing, but I'm trying to bring something different each month so it doesn't all look the same, because I quite frankly could just do medieval every single month, but I didn't want to just do that. And with each month I'm trying to pick a genre to work with so I can make it more interesting. This month does have a specific genre. I'm not going to say what it is until the end of the video. I'm fairly sure you're going to guess it in the next 10-15 seconds, especially if you squint really hard and look at what my drawings are, because my drawing does give away what it actually is. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was just the equipment I'm just using for these spreads. I'm using some brand new equipment that I got for Christmas, and they are metallic brush pens, I think is what I'm going to go with. They're really super easy to use, and I was kind of eager to try them out on the bullet journal. So this is what you're mostly seeing in the journal, other than a couple of different micron pens, and they're just really small sizes. I think one's a 001 and the other is like a 05, just because I wanted to write, or rather draw I should say, some finer detail and make it a little bit different. So I'm kind of pleased-ish with how this is going. I really liked the way that I did the outer decoration. Originally, the pinky bits, the flowery bits, were supposed to be eyeballs, and then I thought that's a little bit too weird, and it didn't have enough colour because eyeball is just going to be white with a black circle in the middle, and I just thought it's just not as nice of just having some weird fruit, and it kind of now looks like I've got some weird alien fruit. So that's my big hint as to what this subject is, if you hadn't already guessed from the cute little picture in the middle. Now, with the wording of January, I was happy with it when I had it in pencil, and then I went over it in metallic pen. Then I was like, oh, it doesn't look quite that good, and then I was like, oh, I'll just go over with a black pen. That was a definite regret with that, and I don't know, it kind of does and doesn't work. I'm okay with it, but at the same time, I'm not okay with it. You'll see what I mean when we do the run through. The other thing I did want to mention was originally I hadn't planned on outlining the pages like I'm doing with the micron pen, especially with the flowery decoration. Originally I was just going to do the colour and just leave it, but again, when I just had the colour on, it just didn't pop. There was no delineation. In fact, when I did put the lines in, I was very glad I did, because it looked so much better. And you'll see this again and again when we're going through all the different pages. So this is the tracking page that I'm doing. Again, I'm not changing my bullet journal layouts out much at the moment, because I'm just thinking what exactly I want with it, and January is going to be my time of reflection as to what I do and don't use. I mean, you won't be able to see it, of course. I have actually already done some of the longer term layouts before this, and I'm not hugely pleased with them, and I'm wondering whether I should have just not bothered with, but we'll see how it goes for this next month as to whether I keep everything in. The one thing I did keep in was my Pop Sugar challenge prompts for 2021. I really enjoyed doing those small little book covers and sticking them on, so I have kept that. So anyway, moving on from that, this going back is of course my tracker page. Unlike December, this is going to be fully numbered in the right direction. I did have fun having all the numbers in different places, although confusing at the same time because I couldn't actually quite remember where I got to, at least on 1 or 2 days. And because of course I wasn't doing sequentially, I was trying to remember what exactly I did. So that's what made that difficult. So I'm glad I'm not doing that again this month. But with this instead, definitely liked having this big tracker because it was just such a big example in my head. So I was more than happy to carry on doing these 2 big trackers. I mean, I could have, as I've said before, just amalgamated down to 1 page and just have both on 1 page. It would be easy enough. But I think part of the reason why I do it so big is partly because it makes it easier for me to see. It's not like I'm blind as a bat, but it is a little bit easier to see and colour in. It also means that I get better practice at doing a whole page spread, or like rather double page spread, compared to just doing a dinky small one. And that's the same again with my TBR stroke red page, because I could probably put them both on 1 page again, so I wouldn't use as many pages. But sometimes I read way more than I plan to. Like last year, I think in May, I somehow managed to beat the average and do like 30 books. That was almost 1 a day. It was really bizarre how much I read. I didn't think I read that much, but apparently I did. So we'll leave that one there. Now, I just wanted to keep this month simple, and this is what you're hopefully going to see in the next several months of my bullet journaling, and that I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. This took me, I'm looking at how long it took in actual hours. If I wasn't recording this and then having to edit, and if I included the actual drawing of the pages, I probably took about 4 hours. Yeah, about 4 hours to do. And that also didn't include research into kind of the different medieval decorations I wanted to think about and what exactly I wanted to do. So you're probably looking at 5 hours. So if you're planning on doing your own reading journal and you wanted to do elaborate spreads, just remember that it is going to take a while to do, even if you're not recording it like I was. But that's not to say that you can't do it, it's just that it's going to take you time. And I weigh what I do with my bullet journal against my own time quite often, because, you know, there are some months where I really wish I didn't actually bother, 1, recording, or 2, actually doing the elaborate spreads. But it does make it a lot easier to practice your art if you've got something to focus on. And this is what I'm doing with this particular journal this year, especially as I have this overarching theme of medieval, because again, this is where I seem to be drawn to the most, and I want to practice doing similar art styles but have my own stamp on it, I think is what I'm trying to say. So if we look back at the journal, you'll see the same theme recurring throughout the several pages, and that's to give it more of a cohesiveness. There were several months last year where I had the overarching theme, but I should have kept it a little bit more simple, I think, because it was a little bit disjointed. Whereas here, I've kept the lettering the same, I've kept the colours the same, and I've basically kept the decoration very much the same. I actually didn't put the little alien creature in on this page, as I felt like it was rather full as it was, and it is supposed to be a practical page, not a place for me to just put so much stuff that you can't actually see the woods for the trees. And the whole point to this, of course, is the fact that it is tracking my books and my audio listening. So really, I need to keep that in mind as well. So when you're doing your spreads, just bear in mind that it's not the decoration that's making the page. What is it that you're actually doing with the page? Because that's what you need to focus on first, and then work your decoration in after that. Having said that, though, I do really like it sometimes when I've done the most elaborate spread, and you almost if this is specific for the tracking page, if I'm almost hiding the little tracking numbers just for fun, because it makes me work for a little bit more. It reminds me, because I've got this page open every single day, whenever I see it, it makes me smile, and therefore it makes me look at the page. So if I did want to do a more elaborate page, it'd be more interesting just to have them almost hiding, so I have to look for it. But at the same time, that sounds like a lot of hard work, and I really have to be in quite the mood to be able to do that one. But who knows what's going to be coming up this year. We may be all stuck inside for longer than like mid-February. I think it's mid-February we're allowed out and about again a little bit more, but we shall see. If you're wondering why you can see an A4 piece of paper every so often on the pages, it's just because the metallic pens were quite juicy, I think is the term, and I didn't want to smudge it because I have bad habits of smudging things and rushing things, and if I've got the wetness on there, I just want to get on with things, so I've put the paper in just to absorb any wetness that's left over. So now we get to our TBR and red page. As you can tell, this is much faster than the last couple of months. The last couple of months have been like almost half an hour sessions, and now we're actually at the red and TBR, as people call it. And again, I'm really pleased with, in some ways, how this turned out, because I really like the shape and how it neatly defines everything. I'm really enjoying the fact that I decided to do it very much a pipe way, if that makes sense. So if you couldn't tell, I decided to go with sci-fi as my theme, so I decided to go with my little Martian alien, and all the decorations, I thought when I think about Martians and that, I kind of like think futuristic, so that's why the lettering is a bit futuristic. And also with the decoration around the side, it's not the gentle curve you see in normal medieval documents, especially when it comes to the flower types, because the flower types are very curly. There are quite a few where they're quite like mine at right angles, but they're not in association with flowers, they're just different, if that makes sense. You'll see what I mean if you just Google medieval manuscripts. Anyway, so I decided to go with this firm like zigzag. It seemed very futuristic, and that's why I also used metallic pens, because that seemed very futuristic, very different from the medieval period. They of course loved colour, they loved using gold, it showed their wealth, but in this particular case, it's mostly because I'm thinking about aliens and the future. I also keep thinking about those aliens from Toy Story. At least that's what keeps coming into my mind. And in some ways, I really want to draw them. But in other ways, copyright. And I don't really want to have any copyright infringement, especially as much as I like them. I can make my own little alien. Now, I just want to quickly retouch on the lettering a second. I really liked the lettering, especially when I had it just drawn in pencil. It looked great. Now, I think I've already mentioned before about the lettering. It didn't really stand out, and I was like, what to do? And originally I did go round with a black Micron, which I almost regret. In some ways, maybe I shouldn't have done the lettering as a metallic pen. Maybe I should have done it something else. And also, it's a brush pen, and it's not that I had difficulty with the brush pen, but I kept forgetting that it was a brush pen. So the lettering also has lines that go thick, thin in a weird way. It wasn't supposed to be like that, but I kept forgetting. And then when I eventually remembered towards the end, it was trying to remember how heavy to press on it to match with the other one, so I found that a little bit difficult. But on the other hand, at least I'm trying something new. I'd never thought of trying metallic brush pens before, so it's kind of exciting to use that. So for me, the lettering didn't turn out quite as well as I wanted it to. I in the end did Micron black pen shadows, and that kind of worked a little bit better, although the regret still is quite hard in me, so we'll just have to leave it like that. And again, it's really nice to see in some ways all the happy mistakes I have, because it just reminds me of what I can do better in the future, and compared to really just trying to make my journal perfect as possible, because that's not going to be possible. I mean, I'm quite envious of all those people who look like they've done it picture perfect in their journals, and I also wonder how many sketches and things they did outside of what you see in their videos. But don't get me wrong, I know how intense it can be, especially to get it right, and I'm not going to worry too much, if that makes sense, because I quite like having the mistakes, because it gives it that little bit of quirkiness. So going back to the video a bit, this is my last page, and I did decide in the end to keep my book of the month page. I debated about whether just to have one page with them all on, but I thought, do you know what? I really enjoy creating this page, even if I always forget to put the book of the month in, and that usually goes in like 6 to 9 months after I've done the page and the month is finished. I'm really bad at that, but hopefully my fingers are crossed that I actually will remember at the end of each month to actually make sure I put that in. Now with this page, I wanted the border to actually intermingle and mix as if it's going into the book picture. So as you can see down one side, it's one colour, and hopefully when you'll see the other side, it's going to be a slightly different colour. They're both complementary, but I just wanted it to have that little bit of contrast, because where you see the month bit, that actually crisscrosses, which is quite nice. I might do something like that next month, because I'm hoping next month, of course, would be the month of love, so I might put romance into there. Massive spoiler, because probably I won't do that and it'll probably change totally. Anyway, see, as you can see, I've used a different colour and I really like this contrast, and in some ways I kind of wish I did this throughout the whole of the spreads, but it was elaborate enough as it was. Well, elaborate and simple at the same time, and now I know how these pens work. The pens might feature again maybe further on into the year, because I definitely enjoyed using them, and I really liked this style as well, because it was so simple and so straightforward to just draw the lines in. Well, the black bit wasn't, as you can see throughout my spread, that I did not use a ruler, and of course it did come adrift. Admittedly, somebody kept knocking me, because I'm sharing the office, of course, because everyone's home working, and I kept getting knocked, so it was a bit frustrating from that point of view. But on the other hand, I didn't really mind. So I did actually use a ruler actually to draw in the bit where the picture is going to be, and I did shift it over a bit because I had it too far over. And I really liked this spread. I can't decide whether this is my favourite one or whether the very beginning page where I have the aliens on it, whether that's my favourite part. But I really liked having this journal to do these doodles in, because I almost decided to go only digital for this year. And I think for me this would have been a mistake, because as much as I prefer digital in many ways, because I'm really lazy when it comes to taking things like journals out, I'd actually missed the creativity that this kind of journal gives me, which is why I love doing it. And I love the fact that I can just open it up and just look at all the different pictures and have all these memories. So for me, it's definitely worth it. Having said that, there are several things that I do online when associated with books that I wouldn't want to transfer into my journal. I did actually have a recommended reads page, which, although I kind of did use, actually it was a bit on the impractical side, where I've got a couple of different methods now that I do use, which make it a lot easier for me to keep track of recommended reads or even my TBR pile, because I've recently found that I have so many ebooks that it is quite considerable, and I kind of need to have somewhere to keep those, because let me just say, it's well over 100. It might be heading towards more like 300 books, because I've collected them over the years because of free things and things like that. So having them in a notebook just isn't practical, whereas for me the notebook of just keeping track of what I'm reading, how I feel about it, and using it as a creative journal and used for art is definitely something I do want to carry on. Even if some of the more practical elements, like keeping track of my pop sugar challenge, which I do like having physically in my journal, but generally that's an end product rather than keeping track of everything that I need to do all the way up to that end product. I will be doing a video about how I use the digital side at some point fairly soon, so do look out for that. Now I think we're basically finished and about ready to do the grand reveal. So of course this is my title page, where I have the medieval theme but with a sci-fi element to it and my little aliens. Then it's going to be my tracking page, which of course is my books on one side and my audio on the other. Really loving the pattern there. Then I have my tabur, as I call it, and my red page, which again features our little alien, which I really do love. He's so cute. And then last of all, my book of the month page. So I hope you enjoyed watching how I've created my spreads for the month of January, and if you like what I'm doing, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, I'm going to see you hopefully at some point sooner than the end of January. I've got some big plans coming up and I'm hopefully going to record them and we'll have some fun together. Oh, and don't forget my podcast, the first one of the new year, is coming out very soon and hopefully you'll enjoy it. It's all about goal setting, but a really interesting way. So I will see you in the next video or podcast. Bye!